It's Leo with another Dragon Quest video. If you want to support the channel, check out my other videos on jrpgs and consider subscribing. Something has been on my mind lately. To be more accurate, I guess, it's something that I constantly think about, and that is Dragon Quest Dai Infinity Strash. Now more than ever, however, this game has been at the forefront of my thoughts. There are a few reasons for this, one being Dragon Quest Dai, A Hero's Bond, a mobile game which I really enjoyed, is getting shut down this April. This was one of the only things still going strong in terms of Dragon Quest Dai, because of course the anime finished airing last year, and for some reason we've stopped getting official English translations of the 80s Dragon Quest Dai manga from Viz. After Volume 5, things have gone silent. It's looking like Dai is slowly starting to fade out of existence, at least in the West, which brings me to why we need Dragon Quest Dai Infinity Strash now more than ever. If you haven't clicked off the video, you most likely already know, but let's quickly go over the status of this game. Dragon Quest Dai Infinity Strash has been delayed to an undecided date to improve the graphics. That's what the dev team has stated. The last we heard of this game was at Tokyo Game Show 2022. We learned about the game modes and a bunch of other stuff. I covered that all right here on the channel. Since then, silence. That's quite normal when it comes to Dragon Quest games though. But having this game be released is important for so many reasons. This game is monumental for Dragon Quest Dai, of course, but for the larger DQ franchise. Dragon Quest Dai's influence is crazy. The Giga Gash from Dragon Quest XI is based on the Giga Break, as we see in the Dai anime / manga. Really, any move in a Dragon Quest game that involves calling forth lightning from the heavens is a callback to the Giga Break from Dragon Quest Dai. You also have Veronica and Eleven's Pep Power, Fizz Cracker, a reference to Madroa, a combination of fire and ice magic seen in the Dragon Quest Dai manga. Honestly, if you liked Dragon Quest XI, I would highly recommend you just go ahead and watch the Dragon Quest Dai 2020 anime remake, because it shares a lot of similarities, and it's nice. Infinity Strash will be the first real action RPG Dragon Quest game. Other DQ spin-offs incorporate action elements, but they haven't been the focus, like with Builders or Treasures, or they were Warriors influenced, like DQ Heroes. So you do have that possible new audience of people who have never tried Dragon Quest because they weren't a fan of turn-based combat. And for those same people, if they're new to everything Dragon Quest, could want to check out the Dai anime and manga, because Infinity Strash will only cover around 40 episodes of the 2020 anime remake. I just laid out a lot of hypotheticals, but I can't help it. I'm a dreamer. I want more people to experience Dai because it's how I became such a big Dragon Quest fan. The story of Infinity Strash will be something remarkable if you've never experienced it. Narratively, it is simpler like the mainline Dragon Quest games. The source material is of course the 80s manga Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai, and there is a reason why it's one of the best-selling manga in Japan. It's enjoyable. Dai's story is a tale of adventure and characters finding themselves amidst the war against the Dark Army. Spectacular fights, a hint of nice wholesome romance, and captivating interchanges between the characters are all things to look forward to in Infinity Strash. I read these comments. You're one of the few Dragon Quest centered channels. Thank you for making videos, and I thank you for watching my content. But it's important to remember that while Dragon Quest doesn't have the biggest Western presence, in Japan, this franchise is a Goliath. You've probably heard the shenanigans with them having to release the mainline DQ games on weekends so people don't take leave from work and so on. This success translates to the spin-offs as well. We're going to look at some sales numbers and talk about them in relation to Infinity Strash. So, in 2015, Dragon Quest Heroes sold around 600,000 copies in its first week. In Japan, of course, the North American and Europe versions didn't come until later, And in the same year, only a few months later, bam, 1 million copies sold. This game did well, and we got Dragon Quest Heroes 2. The story is very similar for Dragon Quest Builders, sold around 500,000 in its first week of being released in Japan. This was in 2016. Later in that same year, 1 million copies sold, and then Dragon Quest Builders 2. The sales data conveys that people are interested in DQ spin-offs, and Dai, which I would argue is much more significant than any game series spin-off, will be successful. Maybe even the best-selling Dragon Quest spin-off. It has pre-established and notable characters. Dai is a Shonen Jump icon, at least in Japan. You know, over here, no one would know who you're talking about. I'm confident that Dai Infinity Strash will sell over 1 million units. Now, does this mean Infinity Strash 2? I can only hope so, man. Because, like previously mentioned, Infinity Strash will not cover the entire anime, so a second game or DLC would be nice. Regardless, before we start talking about sequels, we need this game, Dragon Quest Dai Infinity Strash, first. It will succeed, and it will let more people experience Dai's story for the first time. While I am getting restless, I'm glad they realized the game wasn't ready graphically and delayed it. I think the developers truly want to give us a product on par with the beautiful 2020 anime remake, and it's epic that they're aiming for a worldwide release. I have stated this before, but this is my most anticipated Dragon Quest game release. We've seen more gameplay of Infinity Strash than we have Dragon Quest XII, and that would probably still be the case for me even if we got a gameplay trailer finally for 12. I am a Dragon Quest Dai fan first and a Dragon Quest fan second. I love everything Dragon Quest though. What are your thoughts on Infinity Strash? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video, and yeah, I will catch you in the next Dragon Quest video. I have some things planned, and yeah, bye.